Welcome to Before You Buy the House webinar. My name is Riikka Rajamäki. I'm a classical Feng Shui consultant. Have you ever been in a house that looks beautiful on paper and still doesn't feel great? Have you ever lived in a house that is gorgeous, like from a magazine, but you feel drained living in it? I have. So that's why I am recording this class because I want you to be fully equipped when you are going to look at houses and properties when you're buying your home. So most people are taught to look at price, location, schools, square footage, all this very useful stuff, like all this really, really important stuff. But very few are taught how to evaluate the emotional and energetic quality of a space. And this is where classical feng shui comes in. And this process becomes especially important when buying a home because certain problems can cost significant time, money, energy, headache, peace of mind later. So to me, feng shui isn't really about where to place the couch. I'm here to demystify some of the things that majority of people have about feng shui. Feng Shui is really about understanding what kinds of environments support human beings in feeling calm, grounded, and fully themselves. So, in this class, I want to share some of the most common red flags I personally look for when walking through a home. The goal is not to find a perfect house. The goal is really to understand which issues are workable and which ones are harder to correct over time. This is very important. I don't think a perfect house exists. And I think Feng Shui is here so that we can remedy certain things that may not be ideal. But there are certain conditions that, through the lens of Feng Shui, are deal breakers. And we're going to dive into those today. But again, remember, a lot of the things are workable and Feng Shui can help. So, why Feng Shui matters before you buy? A home affects you long before you decorate it. So, your home is not just what you bring with you. Some problems can be adjusted later, others are built into the structure itself. Feng Shui is not superstition, it is the study of how environments affect human life. It's an ancient art and science, and it's been around for 5,000 years at least. So, this is not about moving crystals and happy cats around the house. Um, this is really zooming out and looking at how environments in general affect human life. The goal is not perfection, but discernment. So if you don't take anything out of this class with you, take discernment. You will look at the houses through a different lens after this class. So we're going to dive into the material. Section 1, I'm going to talk about how the house receives life. Because the way a home receives energy affects the emotional tone of a daily life. Number 1, how the house sits on the land. Questions to ask. Does the home feel supported, exposed, compressed, isolated, or unstable? This is all very common sense material, but we don't really think about it. It is so instinctual. If we look at these pictures here, you already have a Feng Shui software built into your gut, right? Like you can really feel that the picture above um, is very different energy from the house on a bottom, right? So you want to look into the surrounding landscape. And I would imagine living on the house on the rock could feel pretty edgy because you're literally on the edge of a cliff, right? And one of the Feng Shui principles is that you have this, in China, they call it the tortoise support, like a turtle um, formation or armchair formation, where you have something behind the back in the sitting direction. You have, ideally, if you look for a perfect house, it would be slightly on a hill, surrounded by a mountain, and surrounded, behind you would have this backbone like a spine, and then you would have some support on both sides, and you would have a vista or an opening in the front, right? So the picture on the top does not qualify as that. The other picture on the bottom, yes, there is something behind the house. I'm assuming there might be a view on this other side. So that surrounding is way more supportive and grounding for the people living in the house. So there is this overall sense of protection versus this exposure. Like you don't want to be out there just floating around in the sky. That does not feel supportive. Or if you compare these two pictures here, yes, it's amazing to live by the ocean, but how protective does that environment look like and feel like on a top picture? You have water on both sides, and there is really no protection behind the house versus look at the picture below. There's a that beautiful sense of grounded presence behind the house, and then the house itself is facing to a beautiful vista. Number two, the path to the front door. So when you walk into a house that you're considering buying, just know that the front of the house is where you start gathering that good feeling tone before you even enter the house. So the front entrance sets the emotional tone of arrival. What this means is, in a simple terms, is the approach inviting or is it stressful? Again, many things can be corrected. The staircase on the right may not look very supportive and inviting, but again, you can fix the stairs. And the staircase on the left feels so inviting and so supportive, and you just want to keep going. You have this anticipation, like supported, right? So there is this meandering quality that you also want to have in the entrance of a house. Like the chi doesn't just rush into the house, but it actually meanders. So you don't necessarily have this straight line hitting with the rushing chi. You actually have a little bit of a meandering path into the house. So that allows you to gather, if you can imagine, like you're gathering energy, good energy, and bringing it as a gift to the house. So the entry and the Ming Tang, the Ming Tang is called the Bright Hall. If you can think of like you enter a hotel and usually they have these beautiful lobbies, and that's the Ming Tang. You want to have this sensation of like, like I'm entering uh, almost like a private sacred space because you are. So, can the home gather and settle energy? Because that's where the energy will settle, is right after you enter the home. So, you don't want to have this rushing sensation. So, the good front door, again, door can be changed, right? But if you look at a house, you can tell by the front how much good energy has it already gathered before you show up. So the good front door pulls you in. It's solid, it's secure, it's well maintained, it's well lit. You want to have lamps and natural light hitting the door. You want the front door to be larger than the other doors in the house. You want it to open freely. You want to have a doorbell because that is that boundary, that discernment. You want to have this clear distinction between who lives in the house and who is a guest. And you want to have your house number visible. So here are two doors that may look beautiful, but are not ideal because obvious reasons. On the left, half of the door is hidden. The chi is not able to find the door, and obviously it's not very easy to walk there if you have to have your head in the bushes. And on the right hand side, according to Feng Shui, class doors are not ideal because the chi is rushing through it too easily. Like you want to have a little bit of a barrier so that it can gather, and then when you open the door, you bring it in. So there's that level of protection when you have a solid door. So here's a picture of a hotel, like a beautiful marble um, Mingtang of a hotel. So it is that transitional zone. It's a gathering place of chi, and it gives you that sense of mystery. Obviously, if we are looking at most of the homes, there may not be that much mystery, but we can create it if it's not there. And Moongate is an architectural symbol from ancient China, and that is a physical symbol of this mystery or this transition between public and private space. So when you enter the home, you want to have, even if it's tiny, you want to have a space where you can pause before you enter the rest of the house. So you have a place for keys and purse and shoes. You can have a tiny bench or chair, console table or table lamp, fresh flowers. So this create three different things: function, and then it creates flow. You have this effortless flow when you enter the home. You know where to place things immediately. You have no obstacles. It's you know space that is pleasant, and it feels welcoming. It feels grounding, and it is well organized. So let's move into section 2, which is about how the house holds the body. So, your home should support rest, safety, recovery, and nervous system regulation, among many other things. So, in this section, we are going to look at not how and what level does the house bring energy, but how does it hold you? So, staircases and energy flow. Let's look at staircases. Some stair placements create subtle stress and instability. So, if you walk into a home and you have a staircase right in front of the front door, aligned with the front door, it's not a good choice. And in this video, I don't have the time, and it's not the purpose of this video to go into all the reasons why. All of these red flags have reason behind it. This is not just superficial information. This is really based on Feng Shui principles. But in this case, the chi gets misdirected. So um, the idea is that you want to gather the energy enough in the downstairs before it goes upstairs. So that's kind of behind this principle, or this red flag, is that you don't want it to be fully aligned with the front door. So it has room to flow into the downstairs spaces. So the good staircase is well lit, it's wide, it's gentle curve, risers, not too long, straight, steep, spiral, all pretty common sense, right? So stairs can also be renovated and fixed, but ideally you want to have that sense that you're being supported as you take your steps. Next is the center of the home. So pay attention what is in the center of the home that you're looking, because the center affects the energetic stability of the entire house. The element is earth, and it is said that it's the heart of the home, so it ripples into the rest of the home. So ideally you don't want bathrooms in the center, nor kitchen stoves. You don't want to have a congested center area. You don't want a structural heaviness in the middle. And you don't want a lack of openness of breath. You want it to be open and breathing, and giving that sense of groundedness. Let's move to bedrooms, bedroom placement. So when you see the bedroom in the house that you are considering buying, make sure that there is a proper space for the bed to be in commanding position. So bedroom is probably the most important room in the house. So your nervous system needs safety to really fully let go and rest. So when you look at a home, you want to have a solid wall behind the headboard. You don't want bathroom behind that wall. You want to avoid direct alignment between the bed and any doorway. And so you want to create this sense of containment. So if you look at the picture below, there is a lot of chi, right? Because there is the bathroom door is hitting the bed, and then you have windows above the headboard, which is not end of the world. But in combination of many other things, it can become restless. So you want to find a place where when you are laying on the bed and your head is on the pillow, you want to see the entrance, the door, the entryway into the room without having to turn your head. And then you also want to look at where is the bedroom in relation to the rest of the home. So we will talk about that in a moment. But these are the basic things you want to make sure that your bed, whatever size bed you have, fits into a commanding position. So, next is light, activity, and daily rhythm. Homes affect energy levels more than people realize. So, you want to see, where is the sunlight coming from? Is there enough sunlight? Which way is your home facing in relation to the sun or the south? So, in a perfect world, you would have a home where your living room and family room and these active young areas are facing either southeast or south or southwest, where you have a lot of that young energy. And the bedrooms, private rooms, private places would be in the back of the house, which would be ideally north or northwest, northeast. In that way, the person who lives in a home, it's he or she would be in sync with how the sun travels, right? That makes sense. This is not always the case, obviously, because houses are not built according to the classical feng shui principles, unfortunately. But again, that's why we have feng shui, that we can remedy these things. If you end up, let's say, having a bedroom in the south, it's not end of the world, it's not a deal breaker. So that's one of those things that can be remedied. And one of the things you want to look at in a kitchen is, you don't want to have a stove on an open island, and you want to really look at that relationship between movement and restoration. Where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself inhabiting the place throughout the day? So, kitchen is a symbol of wholeness and prosperity. It's the most young room in the house. So it's nice to have a kitchen that is facing, catching the east, the rising sun, or the south, so that it has that active energy that inspires you to be there and inspires you to cook. If you ever seen a kitchen that is facing north or have like very little daylight, it's not very inspiring to cook. At least that's my experience. So the function obviously is to nourish the household, and you want to have a good ventilation. You don't want the food smells to circulate in the home, so you want to make sure it has a good vent and have this kind of elemental balance where the sink ideally is not opposite of the stove, things like that. Section 3, let's move into the hidden stressors. This is called sha qi in China and in traditional feng shui. And these are so easy to ignore. Some forms of stress are subtle, but they are also cumulative, and they can usually often only be felt over time. So some of these hidden structural stressors, they wear down the nervous system. So let's talk about a couple of them. There are many, but if you have a power pole or electricity wires going above your home or right in front of your house, like extensively, or if you have like a power grid or some kind of thing in your neighborhood that that can create some distortion in the energy field. The other thing is if you have water flow underground under the house, and this is all common sense. Obviously, you don't want to have mold or water damage in your home. And that's another important thing to do when you are looking for a house, is to purchase one of those, you can order those online. You can test the mold from the air with the stick, and then you can get the results. How much mold? Is it severe? Is it mild? That's important. You want to look at the condition of the windows and doors. Do they open easily? They are not stuck. Do they stay open? So all those things are important. And also garage placement. So I did put two floor plans here that demonstrate the perfect location for a garage. So on the left side, the garage is there on the right side of the structure. And you can imagine car going into the garage. So the car is not pointing the living areas. Versus on the right hand side, the garage is located so that if you bring your car into the garage, it's almost looking like your car is going directly at the kitchen and the dining and the living area. And that can create restless energy, right? Obviously, because there might be the sense that, wow, car is coming at me. So those are just a handful of things to look for in the house. Then there is the predecessor chi. So homes always carry emotional residue. Each house has a history. If the walls could speak, what would they say? So this is not something to worry about. Spaces can be cleared with a professional energy clear person who can come and clear your space from the predecessor chi. So it's good to know what is the history, who was the previous owner, what happened there. If you have houses that have been empty for a long time, that can raise questions. It's good to find out why. That can create certain kind of energy into the house that is not very life-giving for obvious reasons. If there is a lot of stress or um, lawsuits over the sales, that's also creating a certain kind of foundational energy and an emotional atmosphere, and it can linger in the space. And I think this might be the most important thing, which is, what does the body know before the mind does? So sometimes a house technically works, but still feels wrong. This is how we started this class, with this notion. So when you walk into a home, you want to trust your immediate feeling of it, because your body will always notice things that the mind will explain later. So don't overlook something that might feel irrational or emotional, or instinctual, because your body doesn't lie. So, do you feel constricted or ease when you're in the house? Do you have emotional lightness or heaviness? Is it calming or is it agitation, what you feel? Can you just simply imagine your life unfolding there? So, this is all about your nervous system responding to subtleties that sometimes are hard to notice, especially if you're looking at a house with the realtor, and things are moving fast, and you can't quite tune in. So ideally, you would like to spend a moment in the house by yourself and just sitting there and feeling, how does it feel? Can you imagine yourself, your life unfolding in a good way in this house? And we each have a different taste, right? So this picture is just, there's nothing to do with Feng Shui in general, but it's an image that I like, that feels calming to me. It feels earthy and peaceful. So you want to find a way to imagine yourself in a house. And can that house provide you that, your whatever your value is? Maybe you're not looking for a calm home. Maybe you're looking for a place where you can, be ambitious and change your life and go after big dreams, and it needs to activate you in a different way. But I guarantee that a calm home will bring those aspects out of you more than anything. So the home needs to be a neutral, calming force behind your most ambitious and fiery ideas. So let's end with the quote here. Home is not where you are born. Home is where all your attempts to escape cease. I have added a checklist for you as well that you can print out. So when you go to visit houses, you can easily just check the boxes and make sure that you have considered all of this. Good luck with your home purchase, and I look forward to hopefully hearing about it. Many blessings.